Welcome to another video. Let's get our hands dirty and start using APIs. Okay, we are going to use just a basic API called a trivia API. It actually has a different name, but it's an API. You send a request and it will give you some trivia questions, right? I can talk about use cases when we get there real quick. We're also going to install a program called Postman, which is the most popular program that we use to make API calls. And you can use this in the browser. You can also install it. I recommend installing it. I've been using it for more than 11 years. It's an awesome program. It's an awesome application. And it is the most popular one out there by far. There's a lot of other clients like this, basically a client to make API calls, but Postman is by far the most popular one. Right, so in this video we're not going to do too much slides, just few, and then we're actually going to get our hands dirty. In fact, you might have to pause, you will have to pause and install Postman eventually. So we're going to talk about REST API. Like I talked about in the previous video, there are different kinds of APIs, but we are going to focus on REST because that is basically the major one by far, right? Like a huge difference in terms of popularity. There is SOAP, which is pretty much dead, but still around, but dead. REST, the most popular, and GraphQL, new and upcoming, is that the right way to say it? It's coming up. It's getting popularity. At one point it was getting really popular. Now it's just kind of stable, but it is pretty popular. Facebook invented it or created it. All right, so when we talk about REST API, REST stands for representational state transfer. It just means when you make API calls, there is no state. Like every API call you make, every request you make, it is a standalone. It doesn't depend on the previous request. It doesn't depend on the next one, or doesn't set up the next one. Every time you make a request, its own state, it's a stateless. It doesn't need the service to be in a specific state. It's kind of hard to explain that. Later on, after you use it, it would make sense. But just so you know, RESTful API or REST API is representational state transfer. It uses the HTTP protocol. You use HTTP all the time. Whenever we use a browser, whenever you visit a website, you've noticed it's HTTP. Normally HTTPS. So it's an HTTP protocol. The S at the end stands for secure. HTTPS is HTTP secure, hypertext transfer protocol. It's a protocol, meaning it's just an agreement between services how data is supposed to be transferred. So if you're using an HTTP protocol, when you send data, you're going to package it in a specific way, in a specific format. And the server that's receiving it, or the application that's receiving it, if it's expecting HTTP protocol, it's going to expect you to have it packaged in a certain way, and it's going to respond in a certain way. So in HTTP, there are different methods: get, post, put, delete. There's a few more. In fact, on the next slide, we're going to talk about them. So HTTP, this is not a REST thing, but more an HTTP thing, the methods, right? So when we look at a REST API components, because we're going to be using REST APIs, there are specific things we're going to look at. Again, this is probably going to be the last slide, just one more slide. But we are going to talk about all of those things in action. That's why in one video, I just want to dive right into the action, because talking about it is not going to make a lot of sense. There is methods: get, post, put, patch, delete, and a few more. But the get, post, put, and delete are the most popular one, the most frequently used one. You have a base URL. So when somebody talks about an API, a specific API, those are the things you have to know about that API to be able to use it. What method is it? Is it a get API, a post API, put API, or delete API, or a few more? Then you got to know the base URL. Then you got to know the endpoint. So the URL is basically the base URL. Let me put it right here. You have the base URL, and you put / some resource. It can be /user /new /something. That is the endpoint, right? So the whole thing is the URL. Then you have the request. In the request, you have few components. You have the header, the body, and the query parameter. You don't need all of them at the same time, especially body and query. You have one or the other, right? Either you have a body or you have a query parameter. Headers, you always have them. Sometimes they're required. Sometimes you have to configure. You have to pass specific headers. Sometimes you don't. You just use the basic ones. That's an example right here, what the header looks like. And the response. So you have the request, where you send a request asking for something. Then you have a response, where the server is responding. The response first of all, there is a status code. The first thing you look for is the status code. The status code will tell you if that request was successful, or if it was a failure, or what has happened. Then you have the body. The response will have some kind of information. And that information, that response will tell you it was success, and this is what happened, or it was a failure and this is what happened, some information. And just like the request header, the response also have header, some additional information that is not in the body. Like it all depends on the designer, whoever designed that API. They want to put some information, and that information can go in the body or can go in the header. They make the code based on their own requirements. So just keep this for now for reference. But those are the sections: the method, the URL, the request, and the response. And the request and the response, they have a bunch of things. So to be able to make API calls, we need some kind of tool. We can use a command line in the CLI. We can make a curl request. I'll show you that also. That's the most popular one, because not the most popular one, but a lot of times you might not have opportunity to have a tool like this, a UI. Let's say you're working on a Linux environment, you're inside of a Docker container or something like that. You don't have the ability to use a UI. You have to use a command line, which is, in real life, a lot of times that you run into situations like that. And you can make an API call using a command, a curl command. But most of the time, you have some kind of graphical user interface, a UI, that you use to make API calls. And Postman is the most popular one by one. You can even use it to automate. A lot of people use it to automate. We're not going to use it to automate. We're just going to use it to manually test APIs. In my experience, in fact, what I do is I manually test APIs with Postman, see how it works. What does the request look like? What does the response look like? What does the headers look like? I look at it, I use it, I test it manually. Then I go in my Python framework and then I automate it there. Even though you can automate it in Postman, you have to know JavaScript to be able to do that. So let's go and actually talk about Postman now, okay? So I'm going to get out of the slides, and we're going to come back and we'll talk about this API. We're going to use this API, but if you just search for Postman, it's going to be the first one. They don't even run ads apparently. And then you go there and just create an account. You could use it without creating an account. You can download it. So I have it right here. This is the logo, unless they changed it. They already changed it once. So it looks like this once you install it if you're not logged in, right? But it's asking me to log in. I can't save any of my stuff. You want to save it. When you create an APIs, when you're using APIs, we're going to make API calls a lot, and we're going to have different APIs. We're going to have, just in e-commerce, like the WooCommerce, the WordPress site, we're going to have like customer API, order API, coupon API, user customer product API, different kinds of APIs. Even in these examples, we're going to use case.io, the test case management system. We're going to use this jokes API. We're going to use this trivia API. There's a lot of things we're going to do, and you don't want to keep typing every single thing every time. You want to save it, and the only way you save it is if you actually have an account. It used to be before without it. Now it looks like I just logged out and I'm trying to see what it looks like. It looks completely different. So you do have to create an account. So you can do it either way. You can create the account here. It looks like I'm already logged in. So if I want to log out, sign out, because I want to see what it looks like for you, basically. Let's see. Let me go back here, Postman. What I will do is I'll try to download it first. That's what I would do. I would download it first, then create an account, or you can just sign up for free. Go ahead and sign up for free. If you download it first, I'm going to click on create an account, which is going to open this little tab. It actually opened this thing here, and it opened a new tab in my browser. So I'm going to sign up here. I'm going to say admas@supersqa.com, because I use my personal email for the other one. Username is admas, password is not, I don't want to show the password, or I can show it and I can change it. I'm going to say choose my own. I'm going to say yep. I can talk and think of a good password. Stay signed in, yes. Create a free account, or you can sign up with Google. Usually that's the best way, right? Username is taken, admas supersqa, maybe. Create a free account. All right. Okay, so since I already have the app, it's asking me, hey, you want to open the app? Go ahead, open the app. And the app looks like this. Let's see. Welcome to Postman. Tell us a bit about yourself. Can I skip this? I didn't do this on purpose, because like I said, I've been using Postman for a long time, and when I was trying to create this video, I figured since you're going to have to install it, set it up, I might as well do it in the video. So this is not letting me to skip anything. My name is Admas Kinfu. I am a software test engineer, just keeping it simple. Software development engineer, technically. Oh, it's not even okay. So I have to choose something. Solutions engineer, sure. Continue. Okay, this is the app right now. Earlier, it was a light mode, automatically changed to dark mode, which is actually good for videos. Okay, so this is the app. When I'm recording it, I'm gonna have to zoom in and out. It's pretty small. Let me see if I can make it a little bigger. That's probably good. I'd rather not zoom in and zoom it out for this one. I want to show everything because we got to go into different parts of the app. Okay, so it looks like this when you open it. So you have this collections, environments. We're going to talk about those two here. History is just by default. You'll see right now it should be empty, but later on there will be something. Here you have a couple of tabs. Now we can start actually using it. If I close this, yeah, so there is nothing here. There's nothing here. So pause this video if you haven't done so already, and make sure you have Postman. If you, for some reason, if you don't want to install it, let's say you have like a really slow computer, you'd rather not install stuff, you can use it on the web. I've never done it, so I'm not sure. But if I just go to Postman and go to here, I'm pretty sure you can use it on the web. Let's see. If you just click on workspace, I believe you click on workspace, that will take you to my workspace. Open it. There you go. Right, this is in the browser. It looks just like the app. But it is within the browser. So feel free, if you want to just stick with the browser, go ahead and just use the browser because it looks identical, very much the same. All right, so pause the video, make sure you have this. So I'm going to assume you have this, and I'm going to continue from there because I want you to do it. You're not just going to sit here and listen to me. I want you to do stuff. Now the first API we're going to use is, now where did it go? I'm going to close this, OpenTriviaDB, right? OpenTriviaDB, this link, you'll find it in the description. Right below this video, there's a description, you'll find it. This is an API that somebody created, thanks to them, credit to them, right? I didn't create this, I'm just going to use it as an example. It's open. Usually when you talk to APIs, you need credentials. You got to have some kind of API key, some password, some kind of way for you to authenticate. There's different kinds of authentication. That's when it gets really complicated, really. But we're going to keep it simple. And this one does not require an authentication. It's a public API. So we're going to start with this, and then we're going to move on to other APIs that actually need authentication. But this is a good place to start. So what this API does is just a database of a bunch of questions, like trivia questions. And they give you a little form you can use to generate the API to see what it looks like. So we can say number of questions, 10. Category, we can just say entertainment, books. Difficulty, we can just say easy. Select type, let's say it's a true or false question, right? And the encoding, we can leave it alone, right? Normally, not every API would provide this. These guys are really awesome. They provided this for us, but most APIs, they just give you documentation. They're not going to have samples like that, not necessarily. So when I created generate URL, they gave me this URL. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this, we're going to copy this, we're going to go to Postman. We're going to make our first API call. So if you don't have anything open here, just like, because I closed mine, you're going to hit this plus, that will open a tab. It's just like a tab in a browser, a tab in a Chrome or something like that. Here, there's a field that says enter URL or press text. So you're just going to type it right there. As soon as I typed it in, a bunch of stuff got populated. So let's talk about what we see here. We got the tab, we got our URL, and we got our get call. Remember in our slides, we talked about the key components. You need the method. So the method for this API call is a get call. I don't even know if they tell us, but I just know. They don't really tell us if it's a get or not, but it is a get. So a get is when you're trying to get some information. In this case, we're trying to give us some trivia questions. That's what we're trying to do. If you're trying to create some trivia questions, that will be a post. If you're trying to delete one, that will be a delete. So we're going to start with the basic one, with a get one. So first we need the URL. We got the URL. Then we need the method. We got the method, right? It's a get method. Then we talked about in the request, there will be either body, query parameters, or header. So in our case, query. So what query parameters are? You got the endpoint, you got the URL, and then you give it options. So what we have, when we look at our URL, up to here, this part is a URL. You always have that. That would be the first .com. Up to .com would be the base URL, whatever the site is. If it's Amazon, it'd be like aws.amazon.com. Then slash, and that would be the endpoint. Something specific. Slash something, slash something, slash something. We're going to see tons of examples, okay? Don't worry about it if that's not making sense. But you have the main site here, then you have the endpoint, and when you hit the question mark, once you get the question mark, then those are parameters. Those are like options. You're asking for specific things. So in this case, they call query parameters because they are part of the URL, right? Postman will break them up and show us here, but let's assume they're not there. Normally you don't get this. This is Postman being smart and figuring it out and giving us in an easy for us to see way, like in a table way. But here after the question mark, it says amount 10 and the ampersand and, is that ampersand? But it's an and. I think ampersand is the at sign. Then we have another parameter, category 10, difficulty easy, boolean, type boolean, right? So we got 4 different query parameters. Postman will break it down to us in a table format, so it's easier for us to see, but technically this is what we have. Okay, so now we got the method, we have the URL, we have the query parameters. Now we need headers. So when we click on headers here, Postman by default would add some headers, and they're hidden. It's just default. It just adds them, seven of them right there. And those are like, we just don't mess with them. Unless you have to, don't mess with them. If the API tells you there are some specific headers that are required, then you will come here and you will add them. A header is always key value pair. This equals that. This equals that. Just like the query parameters. So the person or the people, the team that designed the API would have to tell you that. It's not common sense. It's not like you know it once, you know it all. It's not like that. Every API has their own requirement. It's whoever designed it. It's program. It's just, at the end of the day, it's code. It's a piece of code that is designed to do a certain thing, that is designed to work in a certain way. So they would have to tell you, hey, if you want to use our API, this is how you call it. The method is get, put, whatever it is. The URL is this. The parameters are that. The headers have this. So they have to give you the requirement. It's not automatic, okay? So in this case, since they never mentioned, when we look at our example, they never mentioned any headers. That means they probably don't care. They don't have any required header. So we can just leave it alone, right? So now we got everything we need for the request. It's time to send the request. So we're going to click on send. And here we go. Send is request is sent. So in Postman, the top half is your request. The bottom half is your response. And here, if you have collections and stuff, it will show up here. I can make this, I can close it right now. Okay. Just remember, I can open it and close it like that. Right. So it makes it easier to see. So top half, you can barely see it, but it's divided into the top half is request, bottom is response. Now we're going to talk about all of those things, especially the body, authorization, params. We'll talk about that. Settings and scripts and body, scripts and settings, not so much. Okay, so when it comes to the response, what did we talk about components in the response? The response would have the status code, the body, and the headers. Status code being the most important thing. The first thing you're going to look at is the status code. So is there 200 something, 300 something, 400 something, or 500 something? It's going to be one of those. I've never seen anything other than that. Okay, so when we go back, we made a request. The status code will show up right here. And it will be color coded. This is actually a newer version of Postman. Somehow, if you have a really old one, you're not going to see this color coded. So 200 means success, and that's why it's green. So anything that starts with a 200, usually you might get a 200 or 201. The most common ones are those two, 200, 201. That means it's good to go. Whatever API you made, whatever call you made, it was successful. And if it's a 300, that means it was a redirect. You made an API call to some URL, but inside the server actually have redirected you somewhere and you got the response from somewhere else. It was redirected. It's like 301, 302, something like that. If it's a 400, then it's bad. Something is wrong, right? Like a 404. We've all seen 404. You might not have noticed it. 404 just means page not found, right? A lot of times you go to a page. If that page doesn't exist, you get a 404 message. It means not found. So it's the status code. It's an HTTP status code. Since we're using HTTP protocol, the status codes mean something. So 404 means it's not found. So if we have like the URL, like instead of, let's say I have a typo here. In the API, I have double I. If I hit send, I'm thinking it's going to be a 404. There you go. 404 not found because I got the server. The server is correct, but I'm trying to get to this endpoint that it doesn't exist. So we got a 404 not found. So, and there is 401 when you have like security, your credentials, your password, or your API key is not correct. There's a bunch of other 400 something cases for different scenarios. Then you get a 500s. 500 is really bad. Like the server is totally like crapping out, right? There's a server doesn't even exist, or a major error has happened, or something like that. You might get a 502 when you have I think 502, 503, when you have a timeout. The server is taking way too long. The API is just going to say, hey, I'm not going to wait more than, usually typically by default 60 seconds. It's taking too long, so I'm just going to get back with 500. So anything that starts with 500 is terrible. 400 is bad. What you're aiming for is 200. But when you're testing, you're also going to test it to fail it, making sure, hey, if something bad happens, is it going to respond the right way? I'm expecting a 404. Do I get a 404? So you're going to test that. And your testing efforts, you're actually going to make those calls like I just did right now. That is one of the test cases. Hey, if the endpoint is wrong, am I going to get a 404? Because the designer or the engineer might have designed it in a way that it might return a 500, but you don't want a 500. It's just a 404. So you would actually test for that, okay? So the status code, we look at the status code. That's number one thing we're going to look at. Then we look at the response body. In this case, since it's an error, it came back as HTML. This is an HTML. That like Postman detected it HTML, it changed it automatically. Normally by default it's at JSON. When it was correct, let's go back, correct it, send it. We should get a 200. It's a JSON. So in the next video, I will talk about just JSON. We're going to spend a few minutes talking about JSON. But JSON is a data structure that looks like this. It's a very common data structure. That's how REST APIs. That's part of being REST, right? The response in the request, the data is formatted in this way. So it opens and closes with brace or curly brackets. Some people call it curly bracket. Some people call it brace. I think the right word is braces. And then you have key and value, key and value, and key and value. In the value, the key is usually either a string or a number. The value can be another JSON, it can be a list, it can be a string, it can be anything. I'll show you different JSONs, but it's a response with JSON. So that is the body. Right now we are clicked in the body. We look at the body. So we said in the response, we're looking for status code, we're looking for the body, and we're looking for the headers. Then we have headers. Headers are the same thing, key value pairs, but it would Postman would format it for us to look at. So it looks like this. Instead of looking at like JSON, it looks like a table. Okay, and a lot of times we don't use it. There are test cases, there are scenarios where there is important stuff here, but most of the time we don't really use it. Depends on what you're testing. When we're working with WooCommerce, our e-commerce application, there is information useful. It will tell us how many pages there are, how many things there are. So we will look at the header, but most of the time you don't look at the header in the response. You look at the body. So this API right now, I'm actually quite surprised. It says the results are empty, maybe because of category. So if I remove the category, it's probably going to give me random categories. Let me see. I don't think it's required. There you go, right? So in the query parameters, so we have the URL. That's the actual API. Then we can filter things. It's like filters, the query parameters, right? I'm saying, give me this money, give me this difficulty, give me this category. So if I don't give it the category, the way they design the API, it will basically give us random categories. So if I go up here, just look at the response. Now the response is much bigger. So if in JSON, you can actually expand and collapse it. So if I collapse it, we got the response status code. So this response status code is something they just hard coded, but the HTTP code itself is here. You want to look at this here, okay? But in this response, they decided to have a response code in there. They designed it that way. Not every API would have that. Then we have a result that has an array, a list or an array. If you're a Python guy, that would be a list. If any other language, you would call this an array. So it's a list, okay? Inside of it, there are a bunch of other dictionaries, or JSONs, or I can say. I'm a Python guy, so I'm going to say dictionary often. So if you see that this is one trivia question, this is another trivia question. It's just expand. I need to expand it and contract or collapse it. Collapse is the right word. I need to remember that. So here we have one trivia question, another trivia question, another trivia question, and there's 10 of them because we asked for 10. So I can change this saying, hey, give me just one, right? Instead of 10, I want one. There you go, one, and I'm going to hit send. Now if we look at the response, it's easier to see. It's just one. Still have the response code. We have the result, which is an array, this part here, and then there's one. In this array, there's only one. If I say two, there will be two. Just one last example. I'm going to do two. I'm going to hit that. and there are 2 of them in the response. Okay, so you just made, if it's your first time, you just made an API call, your first API call, right, using Postman. So going forward for this entire section, everything we do is going to be in this Postman. So we're manually going to test it. So if you're testing this right now, this is basically what we're doing. We make an API call expecting a certain things, and we just check whatever we're expecting, did it happen or not. That is basically what API testing is, right? That's it. You know it all now. You just need to practice. So for example, we want to verify this API is honoring this amount parameter. So when we say amount 2, do we get 2? That's one test case. When we get amount 1, do we get 1? That's another test case. The same test case is, you want to do edge case. What happens if you do 0? If there's a limit, you'd have to look at the documentation. Is the amount a limit? Can I do 2000? And would it work, or would it automatically cut me off at a certain point? How many does? Sometimes in the header it will tell you how many actually returned, and this one does not. I'm going to go to body. So that's what you're testing. You make an API call in a specific way, and you expect a specific result. So we're going to look at that going forward. We're going to look at different types of APIs, different providers, basically different APIs themselves, and we're going to see we're going to come up with test cases pretty much. Okay, so let's move on and keep learning about API testing.